In this video, we're going to review how a couple of ways to handle off-track behavior for our racers. So when our racers get lost, or they try to cut across an area to take a shortcut, or they just can't make a waypoint for our AIs, we want to be able to handle that so we can get them back on track. So we'll look at two different things. First, we'll look at a way to make the racers go back to the last checkpoint that they crossed if they for some reason get lost between two different checkpoints or they hit the wrong one. And then after that, we'll take a look at how to do things like a slowdown zone, where if you get off track, it makes you slow down, and that would kind of penalize the player and give them incentive to stay on the track and not cut across areas. So for either one, we need to start by setting up some colliders out here in our scene. So let's take a look in our scene view here, and I've got something called out of bounds objects here. I just dropped two of them in for now. This one is a polygon collider out here in the middle, just marked as a trigger, and it's tagged as an OOB for out of bounds. So you need a tag on there and a collider. And then I've got one over here on the side just to seal off the side of the map, and that also is tagged as an out of bounds zone and has a collider with that's a trigger as well. So we'll use those for our slowdown areas in just a little bit here. The other system we're looking at is if they go to the wrong checkpoints. We want to teleport them back to the last good checkpoint that they passed through. So for that, we're going to need to do a little modifying to our code. So let's go look at our checkpoint tracker script, which is attached to all of our racers. And what we're going to need to do is start capturing the last checkpoint that they pass through. So I made a new variable here, last checkpoint, which is a transform. Alright, and then at the beginning, we're just going to set our last checkpoint equal to the first checkpoint that they're going through, or we could set it to our start line as well. That might be even better. But anyway, we want to make sure there's a value there in case our player gets off track right away. We can make sure to get them back where they need to be. Then on their on trigger enter, if they're going through a checkpoint, if it's the right checkpoint, then we want to make sure that we store that checkpoint in our last checkpoint. So last checkpoint will become equal to checkpoints as we enter them if they're the one we were supposed to go to. Alright, so we'll do that right away before we change the value of next checkpoint down here, because we want to capture it before we overwrite that with the one they're going to next. Okay, now if they didn't hit the right checkpoint, then they're off track. Somewhere along the way they got off the beaten path. So then we're going to do whatever it is we want to do from their off track. So we'll call a function here called off track. And off track is going to do a few things. The main thing we want to do is these two things right here. We just want to move our racer back to the last checkpoint's position and rotation. So that will make them just teleport back instantly to the last checkpoint's position and rotation. But we can also do some other things to kind of neaten this up, or to try to help the player understand what happened. So this line here just is going to get the sprite render of our racer and turn it off so that they'll turn invisible. Right? And then if it's the player that went off track, then we want to get the racer controller script and turn it off. That'll take the controls away from the player so the player can't drive while he's invisible. We kind of freeze him back up. And then we also have to kill the velocity of the player as well. So we're going to go to the rigid body, and we're going to make its velocity go to 0. Okay, vector 2, 0, just put zeros in the x, y vectors for velocity, which will just make them stop moving. Okay, then we can move them back to the new to the last checkpoint's position. We're going to wait then for an amount of time. Here I'm just waiting for 2 seconds. After the wait, I'm turning the sprite renderer back on so he turns visible. And again, if it's the player, we're going to turn the racer controller script back on. Okay, we are not handling the AI racers in here yet. We could also do that. It's the same thing. We just check for the AI tag and turn off the AI Racer's controller script and turn it back on as well. So that would be how you would handle that. Just do it for the AI as well, and then that will handle them and keep them from moving when they're invisible, and so forth and so on. Okay, so that is going to handle our player at least, and if we modify it, our AIs as well. So now if we play our game, let's make my game view just a little bit bigger here too. And let's say I decide to go to the wrong checkpoint. Okay, so I'm just going to go this way, and when I hit that checkpoint, it popped me up to waypoint 1. So again, if I like turn around here and try to go back, it's just going to pop me right back to that last one, which is right there. Okay, so you can see what's happening there. If I roll around the track here some, and I decide that I want to cut across country here maybe, and see if I can cheat a little bit. Well, as soon as I hit a checkpoint, it's going to take me right back to the last one I was at. So that keeps me from being able to cut across and all that as well. Alright, the second method we're looking at is slowdown zones. So, and you could use both of these together. You may want to have areas where if they try to cut across, it's going to make them go really, really slow, and the player is going to have incentive then to not do that, to try to stay on the path. And we're really better off giving the players of our games reasons to do things instead of just not letting them do things. If you can give them some choices in your game, that's always better, because then they can make those choices. They can try different strategies, and we can make it so that the strategy we want them to follow is the one that works the best, and so they'll find that and they'll follow it. So alright, so that's where we have using these out of bounds zones I was talking about before, such as the one that's all down the side of the track here. These are tagged as OOB, and what we did then in the player script, or the racer controller here, is in our onTrigger enter 2D function, we're going to check to see if the collider we just hit's tag is OOB. Right? If it's one of those OOB zones, then we can decide what's going to happen. In this case, I'm just going to drop the top speed to a lower number. Normally it's a 10. I'm just going to drop it to a 2 for our example here, and we'll see that happen. Alright, so when we enter the trigger, that's an OOB, we're going to set our top speed down. Now, I also want him to be able to go back to his top speed when he leaves the out of bounds collider. So once he gets back on where he's supposed to be, to do that, I can use a function called onTrigger exit 2D. onTrigger exit 2D runs automatically the first frame that we're no longer touching a collider. So when we leave the collider for the OOB, so if the one we just left is an OOB, then we know it's time to set our top speed back to our normal top speed. This variable here just holds my normal default top speed, so if I change my top speed, I can go back to it. So this will, when we enter the trigger for an OOB, we'll set our top speed to 2, and when we exit the trigger for our OOB, we'll set our top speed back to normal. So let's just show how that works in our game here. So there's one all along the left side here, so I'm just going to drive off the left side, and you see I'm going really slow, and as soon as I pop back on the track, I speed back up again. Alright, so that just puts the slowdown zones in there. I'll show you again one more time, and we can watch the inspector so you can see what's happening. So if you look over here at the racer controller script and you watch the top speed here, when we play, you'll notice that it's at 10 right now. And as soon as I get off to the side, see how it drops to 2, and then once I pop back on, it went back up to 10. So that is how you can do slowdown zones in your game. You could also use this technique for damage zones. Maybe you've got a part of the track that's on fire, and if they go inside that fire area, that you can cause them to lose some health points. All sorts of different types of things you can do here. This is onTrigger enter, onTrigger exit. There's an onTrigger stay. There's all sorts of these that can do interesting things in your game. So I hope that helps in just reviewing how we did some techniques for getting our player back on track or encouraging them to stay on track. If you have any questions, as always, just ask me.